So I call Mr. Peach and I'm like, hey, like I didn't break it. He's like, what was it doing in the garage? And I'm like, I was sleeping in the garage because I had nowhere to go. Silence. It was just silence. And he's like, are you gonna come in today so we can talk about it? I'm not gonna go in until later. And he was like, okay, I'll see you then. Hey beautiful, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, hi, my name is Alexisjayda and welcome. Today's notification shout out goes to Jacqueline. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Te quiero mucho. Thank you so much. If you guys want to be part of the notification squad, all you have to do is just subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment down below. And I could possibly use your comment in the next notification shout out. Ooh, that was just like, I always mess up when I do like the notification thing. If you guys noticed, I didn't do it last time. But yeah, guys, I got some new makeup today from ColourPop. They sent me some new, hold on. Let me try to, I got some new makeup. ColourPop sent me their new cherry line. I was like, ooh. Today is gonna be a story time. This is part of my Nanny series. I will do another story time that's not part of the Nanny series. I will link the playlist down below in order. I fixed it so it goes from part 1 all down to, I think we're now on part 14. Now it's so crazy to think that because like my book is thick. So this is a convo that I want to have with you guys. You want me to skip some pages or you want me to like one, because it's gonna be long, you guys, because I write a lot and it's not like if my book is like thin, my book is like thick. Anyways, look, you guys, I'm wearing the new merch. Story time, and it's Who Raised You, and let's do this and good vibes. You guys wanted me to put on here if they wanted to, they would. So I think I'll switch out some of these letters and just put if they wanted to, they would. You know, I'm just trying to make you guys happy. Sit back, relax, let me know what you're doing, where you're driving to, where you're working at. How are you like, have it in your ear and then you have the headphones over. You guys are sending me some crazy ass pictures and you guys like, don't post this. I'm like, you're so crazy. But let me know what you guys are doing. You're driving to, if you're doing your makeup. I did a cool ass transition the other day on TikTok. I felt cool. I was like, and I found I've used it. So I want to say thank you so much. It's so freaking awesome. I miss you guys. I know it's only been 2 days, but still 2 days is too long. All right, so let's get into this video. So a few of you guys were confused because I mentioned a friend who I named Biscuit now, but a long time I did a story time. I named her Skillet. At the time, the Nanny series was not anything, so that name Skillet was up for grabs. When I mentioned the friend, I was like, oh, I already had named her Skillet. I gotta rename her and name her Biscuit. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have never even brought it up because it's just confused, and I should have just been like, but I was like, just in case fam, I'll go to that video and be like, oh, so you and Skillet went through this? No. I'll try to do like a sketch and like write it out. Sit back and relax. Woke up the next morning, my mama picked me up. She wanted to spend time with me. As I was spending time with her, my phone kept going off. I looked at it and I seen that I was being accused of breaking this stupid DVD player that I knew in my gut that something was gonna be up with it as soon as Sam brought it out. I don't know, it's just one of those things where like you don't wanna seem anal and someone's trying to do something nice or like let you use something and you're like, no, because you just have that luck and you're like, nah, I don't want any drama. Take it back with you, like don't forget it, you know, one of those things. But I got too caught up and got comfortable. I feel like when things would happen like that, I got too comfortable and it sucked because something would happen. Even now, I'm very careful with certain things, certain people, because once you get comfortable, something happens and you're like, and that sucks because you should just be able to just chill wherever, you know, but unfortunately, we're not living in a made up world. So I'm stressing and I'm talking to my mom and I'm kind of letting her know like what's going on. Now, it was very hard to talk to my mom sometimes because she was either at like a 3 and I could like, yeah, this is what happened. Or she was at a 10 and she was like, we're breaking bottles over the bitch's face. Like crazy to a 10. And at the time, if my one of my cousins was around, hyping her up. Like I remember one time I was telling about this one person that was like bothering me. My mom was getting hype and my cousin, ratchet ass cousin, was like, oh, so they want to play games. Okay, Lex, this is what we're gonna do. Like on some kidnap stuff. And I was like, no. See, I don't know if that cousin was just like telling me some crazy stuff so I could be like, it ain't that deep. or if she was really crazy, you know what I mean? Because now when I hear things about her, I'm like, there is some stuff loose up there. It was really hard to confide in my mom, and this is advice for women as well who have daughters, because I feel like when daughters or sons, you know, make it a safe place so that when your children talk to you, not right away you're going to like a 10, you know? At the same time, don't let them feel like, oh, like they don't care, you know? No, there has to be like a middle where like they can talk to you and they're not scared of, oh my gosh, she's gonna pop off, or dang, I can't never tell you anything. There's some times where our kids wanna be smart asses and be like, I can't never tell you anything. But then there's some times where you really gotta listen and be like, maybe they're saying that too much. Maybe I do like pop off really quickly. Like maybe I should listen, you know? Because that was a lot of issues with me and my mom. And I try to change that with my daughter now. So like I'll joke with her when she tells me something, or you know, when she was getting bullied and everything, I'd be like, yo, I'm gonna go beat their ass. But like playing around, you know, it wasn't like how my mom would get. My mom would get like red in the face and she was pissed. Like my mom wanted blood, and I'd have to be like,
no, it's okay, like maybe she is my friend and she just plays and I just know how she plays.
I've always been protecting my bully from my mom, you know? So you have to have like a certain, you gotta make it a comfortable space for your child to talk to you about certain things, because it was really hard. And a lot of the time I wouldn't want to tell my mom a lot of things because it always just felt like she just went to like a 10 or she was at a 3, and sometimes she was just checked out and it didn't seem like she really gave a damn. I was kind of like when I wanted to tell her what was going on, but so I ended up telling her, you know, a little bit of what's going on, a little bit, and that was enough to ignite my mom into being upset. And then I was upset because I'm like, why the hell are you that upset? It's about me. And a lot of the times I would feel like my mom would always make things about her. If I was mad about something or something happened, I feel like she would get so upset, and it's like, okay, so is it about your feelings or is it about my feelings? It really made me mad, because I'm like, are you doing this on purpose or not? Because it was just freaking hard. I just sit there and I'm kind of just annoyed because my mom popped off, and I'm annoyed that I'm getting blamed for something that I didn't do. I'm annoyed that I feel like I can't ever let my guard down, and I'm really still annoyed that Sam had the nerve to turn off the cameras and I was outside. Like I was really hurt about it, and even after telling the story time, I wanted to hit her up and be like, girl, you know, you really messed up. Like you really are, like really messed up. But I didn't, because it's already happened, you know? What can she do? She can't go back in time. She ain't no Rick and Morty. I'm just sitting there and I'm really contemplating, like, should I go in? Should I not go in? Is it gonna be a fight? Ugh. During that time of me going through all these emotions, Skillet hits me up and she like tells me like, hey, can you talk? And I'm like, I swear she knew something was up. Do you ever have someone like that in your life where if you're either thinking about them or just going through something and they just message you? Well, Skillet did it at that time, and I was like, oh, she knows. So I tell her like, hey, what's up? She's like, good. I don't know why she asked me that. I don't know if she felt it in her freaking core tone, her heart, or what, but she asked me and I was like, so I didn't want her to really know what was going on, you know? So I was like, yeah, why? Question mark. What did you do? I don't know why, but I did. I was like, what'd you do? What'd you say? What happened? And so she messages me. She's like, nothing. I just had a feeling that something was up and I wanted to check on you. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm good. She kind of distracts me with what's going on because I was very upset. My mom's annoyed at me because I got annoyed at her, and she's just distracted with my brothers and kind of like giving me like a little bit of a silent treatment. So I continued to talk to Skillet, and eventually we break the ice. I feel like it broke the ice because of what was going on. If, to be honest, I wasn't going through what I was going through at the time, I probably wouldn't have replied back. But I needed something. I needed someone that was just going to be like, all right, I get it, you know? And even though Skillet had like did me dirty, I felt like, okay, she was going to be the one to kind of understand and actually like listen. So she asked me what I'm doing and if I wanted to hang out and if I want to go to the park. And she put like a little like laughing emoji, shady, but she put it there because that's where I got, you know, jumped. Was it funny? No, but sometimes you just have to you gotta have like a dark sense of humor sometimes in some situations. So I was like, oh, ha 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 ha, yeah, I can meet you there. So I tell my mom, like, hey mom, I'm just gonna go. Me and my mom started fighting because she's like, why are you always trying to leave? And I can't ever tell you anything. And you know what, Jay, just next time, just don't tell me anything. And I'm like, okay mom, I won't. We had to fight for me to leave because she was still wanting to mom me about the situation. And she was upset because she was like, no, them, they're tripping. You're not gonna work with them. Tell them that you quit. And just going to 0 to 100, and even though she was right, I should have quit. I didn't want to hear that. I just wanted to hear calm talking. I didn't want to hear the bipolar and my mom being like, them bitches. Like, I didn't want to hear that anymore. Like, I was already getting ghetto all the time enough for the both of us. So I didn't want to hear my mom react like that. I wanted a different reaction from her. I didn't want it to be always so loud and just always wanting to fight and cuss people out and, you know, all of that. Like, when my mom gets mad, she doesn't get like a normal mad. My mom drags you through the mud. My mom humiliates you. My mom like makes you just want to be like, okay, because my mom goes in. And I think that's where I learned how to be so nasty at times, where I had to be, because when I get upset, even now, like, I tell, like, even my brothers or like loved ones, like, quit, or like, I'm gonna hurt your feelings, because I learned it from my mom. Like, I swear I did, because I really will hurt your feelings, because I will be nasty and I don't want to be. But that was, I think, my mom's quickest way to maybe get her point across, or whatever the hell she was trying to do, because people would cave in, be like, okay, or just shut the F up and just leave her alone. So I feel like that was my mom's superpower, was just attack until the person just quits, because she ain't the one. So we end up fighting, and I hate leaving my mom when we're fighting, because I always was like, what if something happens? That's the last thing we're going to remember. I left mad, and then I messaged her later on, like, mom, I love you. I always tried to apologize to my mom, and sometimes my mom would just be like, you know what, it's okay, don't, because she knew, like, I didn't mean it, you know, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to leave angry. And I would always express to my mom too, like, I don't want to lose you. I don't want something bad to happen, because I will be lost. Even now, like, when me and my mom, we kind of like get annoyed with each other or whatever, or I don't even like saying annoyed, but if we have like a little like bickering moment, I'll still text her like, I love you mom, or I didn't mean like that, or, you know, talk to her, because if my mom were to leave this earth, part of me would never be the same, because like, that's still my mom. A lot of people can't understand, how can you still talk to your mom after everything? And it's like, I get where you guys are coming from, like, I get it. Half of you are like, nah, I can't believe her mom, you know, chose the pedophile or her daughter, and half of you are like, nah, like, I get it, it's a hard, tough situation. Some of you are like, nah, I get it, like, it's just that certain type of mom love that just, it's different. And even if it's a toxic relationship, it's very hard. Like, no one can ever replace my mom and her love, or even the way she does certain things or says certain things. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And back to that I know I always talk within my videos. I don't know if it's because she helped, well, she created me, but she helped mold me into the little crazy little shit that I was. I could relate a lot to her when she would just like pop off a certain way, because like, I would do that too. And I don't know if it was because like monkey see, monkey do, or if it was because like I was wired that way too, and I understood. And I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm trying to justify me loving my mom in a way, but I just love my mom. And even though there was times where I had a lot of hate in my heart, and I cried because I hated that I had those feelings towards my mom. But at the time, those feelings were valid, because there was a time where my mom went missing, and I for sure thought we were gonna get a call and they were gonna tell me, hey, we found her overdosed, or like I was gonna call. And the last convo that we had was me telling her, like, you ain't shit. you know? And I would be really raw with you guys, like on my vlog channels when me and my mom were going through it, because like I had nobody who would understand how it is dealing with someone who's dealing with their demons, who is an addict and who has bipolar and who's depressed and who is going through so many things, and you still love that person. People that were in my circle were like, cut her off, like just be dead with her, like stop. And there was a time I did cut my mom off for like 2 years, and those were like the hardest times, because the whole time I kept thinking like, God, please protect her, because I don't know what's going on. I always talk to myself like, stop crying like a little bitch. It's like, oh, she got some daddy issues. I got mama issues like a mofo, and grandma issues, and I don't got no daddy. I'm a whole package of what the fuck, because there's a lot, and it has shaped me into the person that I am. Totally went like super like with it, but I'm in therapy, okay? That's what y'all my therapists. Y'all sitting down with me like, that's crazy. I'm like, I know. Me and my mom, we ended on a bad note. She's upset, I'm upset, because I'm like, it's your fault. I text Skillet and I'm like, hey, I'm walking there, I'll see you there. She's like, okay, I'll be there. Waiting for Skillet, and I'm really starting to think like she's not gonna show up. And I'm like, why did you tell me to meet you then if you're not gonna show up? As I'm messaging her like, hey, where you at? A text from Mrs. Peach comes in and she says, are you coming in today or not? Now, it wasn't even, I had like an hour or so still, and I'm like, I really hate how she gives me so much attitude when she needs to save that same attitude for her mans, because she would always be like getting a little bit sassy with me, but it's because now as a grown adult, like when I think about it, it's because she knew that I didn't really have anybody. Finally, Skillet shows up and she's looking really, really pretty. So my first thing to say is, you look so pretty, because she does. And like when my friends look pretty or when my brothers look handsome that day, they're looking like they cleaned up, you know, or like my cousins, whatever, I'm gonna be like, oh, you look good. Just a reaction. Why? Because I ain't no hater. So she's like, oh, thanks. So what are you doing? And I'm like, it's like funny, because it's like, what do you mean? You invited me. What are you talking about? So I just kind of like, you know, laugh, and I'm like, what you mean? Like, you told me you wanted me. I was like, was it you that texted me? She's like, yeah, dude, I'm just like nervous, and I just, you know, I just want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, well, what's up? And she just starts to like apologize. She sits next to me and she's just telling me like, look, I will do whatever it is that you want me to do so that we could be friends again. And I jokingly say like, then let me beat your ass, you know? Just joking, because I'm going through a lot up here and I'm trying to escape because of what's going on. And within a quickness, she was like, all right, who you want to call? Who you want me to beef with? And I'm just like laughing, because I'm like, shut up. Because one, I don't know if she really is that serious. Two, I just couldn't do that. I would feel like so grimy, weird, because that's just, you just don't do that, you know? It's just weird. I don't have scissors, or else I would cut those, because it saves money when you cut them. When we started talking a little bit more, she was like, no, like for real, like call somebody. And she kept like pushing my phone, like, because I had my phone in my hand, but she kept like pushing it towards me, like call somebody. And it kind of irritated me. So I was like, dude, like stop. Like you're really just trying too much right now. And like it's really just pissing me off, because you shouldn't even be telling me that. Like, oh, call somebody to like, you know, get me jumped too, because it should have never happened at all. Like at all. Like that should have never happened between us at all. So just stop. It's like when someone cheats on you and they're like, well, you do it back, do it back, do it back. Just do it back, or go right now, or talk to whoever. It's stupid. It's fucking stupid. Like you should have never done it from the get. So don't tell me like, go do it back, do it back. Or when you hit your sibling, you're like, okay, hit me back. No, it's weird, it's stupid, and it just kind of like irritated the hell out of me, because she kept, this is my phone, right? And she's like, do it. And I'm like, dude, stop. Like it was just, It was just a lot. And so I was getting irritated, and then she wanted to catch a little attitude and be like, I'm really trying here. I'm like, okay, I know you're trying, okay? Let's just like, just chill, relax. Like, let's just talk. Like, it's weird. But she wanted me to, this looks so weird having these two like that. She wanted me to be like, okay, like we're good. And I couldn't say that. Like, I'm not going to lie just to make you feel comfortable. Because she was like, okay, then say we're good. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna say that we're good because that's weird and I don't mean it. She's like, okay, then, like, again, pushing my phone. She's like, call whoever. I'm like, dude, stop right now before I get up. I swear I'm going to get up and I'll never come back. Dramatic, yes. But I wanted her just to chill out. Like, oh gosh, stop it, you're flustering me. So she was just kind of quiet, and she's like, I just want us to be good again. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't have done that. And she's like, you see, there you go, there you're saying. I'm like, somehow am I not supposed to say like nothing? You just want me to like shut up and not say anything? And she was just like crying and telling me like, I just want us to be back to how we were, like so much has happened and I don't have anybody. I'm like, oh, that's why. She's like, no, that's just not the only reason why. Like, I miss you, like I miss us. And I'm like, dude, I miss us too. Sound like a full-on relationship, huh? But that's just how friendships are too. Like, they literally are like relationships. Like, for real, they really are, because you put a lot of time, you spend a lot of time, you spend money, you go on freaking dates, you talk about like some intimate stuff. Like, it's a full-on relationship. It really is. So like, when something grimy is done, you feel it in your heart and your soul. You're like, what the hell? You know, when you get betrayed, it's not just like an easy fix. I know you guys are probably thinking like, how can you not forgive her but you can forgive the ex for cheating on you and doing all kinds? It's because I didn't love him like I loved like Skillet, you know, and I trusted her. Like, it was like, dude, like I trusted you. I don't know how to explain it. What I had with him was like puppy love, you know. It was like whatever. Like her, it was like real genuine love. Like I would lie for you, and I did lie for her, and I did go out for her, and I did like show up for her. Or when someone get crazy for her, I was there. I was like front and center any day, all day, you know. And so when she did that, it makes you take like 2, 10 steps, 20, 40, 60 steps back, and kind of just like kind of like ices your heart, because you were moving for someone who wasn't even moving with you, you know. You're walking alone and you had no idea. And that's how I felt. I was just telling her like, you know, like just relax, like let's just talk, like what's been going on. And she starts to tell me like, you know, things that have been going on with her, and it was a lot, you know. And I felt for her. That sucks that she was going through this, and like I had no idea. So we talked a little bit, and I forgot that I had like silenced my phone a little bit because I was busy talking to her, and I still had to go to the beaches. Like I still had to clock in, but I was so into catching up with Skillet that I had forgot. And me and her were catching up, and we were just like, yeah, and then this was going on. And I was telling her like, oh yeah, I see my old friend Biscuit, and she didn't really like Biscuit for some reason. I don't know why. She never told me why. She was just like, oh. And I don't know if it's because like she knew that like me and Biscuit had history too. So she was like, you know, just that one thing, like you don't want to share your friend, you know. So she was like, oh, I'm already getting replaced. And I was like, you're tripping. We were literally just having like a little moment and just talking about everything. I don't know what makes me look at my phone, because I was just so engaged into the convo. I look at my phone and I notice Mrs. Peach is like, hello, and that's how I picture her saying it, hello. So I'm like, oh dude, I gotta go. She's like, what's up or what? I'm like, I have to work today. She's like, oh okay, cool, I can walk you. And I was like, yeah, because something might pop off. I should have never jinxed it like that. But I was like, okay, yeah, walk with me. She was like, okay, cool. So we're walking, and she's like just telling me like, oh dude, like I'm glad we're good. Deep inside I wanted to be like, stop, because we're not. Like we're still working on it. I don't know if I'm gonna talk to you after this, because I love that we were talking again. And like, yeah, I was using her because of me not being able to talk to my mom, and I probably wouldn't have answered if my mom could like talk to me right, you know. And it sounds messed up, but I'm being transparent, I'm being honest with you. And I have even had these combos with her too. Like I'm very like open about like my feelings, and like, yeah, like I did do that because of this, and this is what's going on because of this, you know. There's no like, oh, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. Very open, because I just feel like that's just like, it's like the best way to be in those kind of situations. All right, warning before I go any further, this is going to be a trigger warning. So please, if you do not want to listen to any of this, skip forward until I'll probably leave a timestamp of where I stop speaking about this uncomfortable situation. And yeah, I'm walking with Skillet and we're getting close to the house, and she's like telling me if I have anywhere to go, that she's gonna be hanging out at this spot. I know that if I wanted to go later on after work, and that she'd come with her friend to come pick me up. And I tell her like, no dude, like it's cool, I'm gonna probably be with the ex, you know. I didn't want to just right away be like, oh yeah, let's be like, you know, friends again. Or, and at the same time, I really didn't feel like I could fully trust her because of everything. I kept thinking like, what if this is like another setup for something? That's honestly just how I kept feeling, because like, what if she felt stupid and she's just trying to, you know, reel me in? And I just told her no. She was like, okay, well, you know, I'll see you later. She ends up walking her way. As I'm walking close to the house, there is Mr. Peach, and he's like telling me if he could talk to me, and I'm like, okay. And then he's like, come on, I gotta go get some groceries anyways. And I'm like, okay, well, Mrs. Peach has been messaging me like if I'm even coming. She's like, don't worry about it, I got it. I'm like, okay. So I get in the car, it's just me and him. We start driving, and he wants to ask me little questions. So when we were gone, and just kind of like recapping what Mrs. Peach was asking too, like who was in the house, but he was doing it kind of like in a way of like he was trying to be the good cop, you know, like, oh, it's okay, you know, like Mrs. Peach, she can be a little, you know, a little bit too much at times, like I understand, but you know, I just want to make sure that I know who was like in my house, and it's okay, like you can tell me. I was sitting in the passenger, had the seatbelt over me, and when this man said like it's okay, he puts his hand and grips it on my thigh and kind of like squeezes in like, oh, it's okay now. And even then I knew like it was not okay. And maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe some of you guys would be like, Jade, my dad does that or whatever, you know, but he wasn't my dad. He wasn't my dad. And even if he did know me, sometimes that's just like too much for, I'm not really a touchy-feely person like that, unless it's like my husband, or, you know, or I don't know, like I'm not even like that with a lot of people to be like that. Girls, yeah, because I feel like more comfortable. Boys, I'm not really like the one to be all touchy-feely, you know. But anyways, he grips and I'm like, ah, and I kind of just like squeeze him and put my thighs together, because I was like, oh my god, like I was sitting with my legs open, oh my gosh, and I was just like overthinking. And I think he's seen that I was like thinking, you know, and he goes, well, it's okay, it's calm down, and puts his hand on my shoulder, you know, and he's like gripping. He's like, calm down. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm calm. And I was like, no, like for what I know, when I left Sam, I don't know what happened, and I don't know if she did have anyone over. And he was like, are you sure? He's like, I just, you know, I just want to make sure that she's not doing anything crazy, and I want to keep my eyes on her. Now, this is when I become a smartass, because I'm like, if you really wanted to keep eyes on her, then why didn't you guys take her? He kind of just laughs and he's like, true. But you know how Sam is. She just tends to just make it a hassle. You know, I have the kids, Alexis, and you know how she is. Like, he was trying, like, I'm just like, why are these grown-ass people trying to vent to me about that? Like, that's none of my business. I don't know if I was a therapist in my past life, or I give off that vibe, but even now, people do that, where they talk to me and tell me a lot from, like, right off the bat, you know? So I just kind of sat there and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, yeah, you know, I don't know what to tell you. Again, he goes in with my thigh, in my thigh, but kind of grips more in. Like, I don't know how to explain. Like, you know, here's the top of my thigh, and he was like grabbing, but he was like, yeah, you know, like that. And so I've talked to certain friends about it. Half are like, oh, Alexis, it's not a big deal. Like, my dad would grab my thighs all the time. Maybe he just sees you as like a daughter or something, and he's just like, oh, you know. And then other half were like, dude, no, like, he's really like trying. So it was just like mixed feelings that I was getting. And then what had happened with my stepdad, I was kind of like, ugh, like I just felt hot, you know, not like turned on hot. I felt hot, like uncomfortable hot. I'm sweating. I got ass sweat going to my crack. Like I feel uncomfortable. So I just like moved his hand, and as I moved his hand, he kind of just like moves it where like we're just holding hands now. And I'm like, I know some of you are probably screaming like, why didn't you tell him to let go? Because I was scared. You freeze up and you're just like, you feel like you're reading too much into the situation. You don't want to be labeled as crazy. You're like, oh, I'm just thinking too much, and you just feel like you don't know I didn't know how to react, because I'm just like, maybe he just sees me as like a poor little orphan, and he's just like, you know, and maybe he's not a creep. And gosh, Alexis, not everyone just wants to freaking like hurt you and freaking touch you. Like, so it's a constant battle in here. Like I'm telling you, you can't tell me something that I haven't already told myself. So when people think like they hurt my feelings, I hurt my own damn feelings all the time, every time. Even before I'm gonna go to bed, like, you know, you ain't shit. Yeah. I kind of just like hold on to his hand for a little bit, and then I kind of just like move away, and I just fold my hands like this, and I cross my legs, because I'm like, okay, that's what's gonna get to stop. We end up going to this store. So we get off, we go to Harmon's, and he's like telling me that, what do I like to do for fun? He's like, what do you like to do for fun, Alexis? And I'm like, I don't really know. I don't really have like any like hobbies. And I was like, I like to dance. I like to go to like these, back in the day, like, you know, get served was like a huge thing. And I like to battle dance. Okay, I like to do that, the hip hop thing. I like to get with it. And so he was like, oh, that's cool. Are you part of anything? And I was like, sometimes me and my friends, we like to go to this one place out here, and we just, you know, dance and compete with other little people. Like, it was nothing serious, you know. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And just, you know, acting like he's caring. And so we're going through the aisles of like chips, and he's like, tell me, like, what kind of chips do you like? And I'm like, oh, I like these kinds. He puts them in the cart. He starts to bring up the combo again of the DVD player of what happened. And I tell him, honestly, I don't know. I was like, when I told you that I was just sleeping in the garage, and he's like, yeah, about that. Why were you sleeping in the garage? And so I was explaining, like, you know, the whole situation, like, oh, because of this. And he's like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. See, Mrs. Peach was telling me something different. And so I'm like, what'd she tell you? He's like, you know, Mrs. Peach, she's just, he's like, oh, you know, Mrs. Peach, she has selective hearing. Like, trying to, I feel like he was trying to pin me against Mrs. Peach. And I'm like, okay, you try to grab my thigh, like, I'm not, because I still felt weird. You feel so weird. Things like that happen, you know, and it's like so fast. And this man is so wealthy, so well liked, so well known. You look at him and you would never think like he would do something nasty. And so in your head, you're just like, oh my God, like, I just want to go home. Like, I just want to go home. I don't want anything bad to happen. Fighting in my head. And he was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. And so I start texting the ex, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And I start to tell him that if we can just work things out, and that pretty much like I'll be a better girlfriend, because I'm like, I can't keep putting myself in these like weird situations. I'm talking to him, and he's like asking me like, ooh, who are you talking to? And I was like, oh, my boyfriend. And he's like, oh, your boyfriend, okay. Do you guys like do stuff? That was like, okay, you're really trying it. So I tell him like, what stuff, Mr. Peach, what stuff? He gets kind of like flustered, and you can see that this man was turning pink. Like, I was making him feel like, oh, what, you know? So I asked him, I'm like what, Mr. Peach? Like, what do you think I would do? He's like, I don't know, stuff like that. And it's like so weird seeing a grown ass man blush. And so I'm like, no, we don't do that kind of stuff. We don't do like adult stuff. Even though it wasn't true, I know, before someone's like, but you said, I know, I'm telling this to another person that is being a cochino. Of course, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I do that stuff, because that's weird, and I had no business doing that stuff at that age. He continues to get like, whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't do that stuff. And he's like, so you're a virgin? And it was so weird. There was this lady, I will never forget her face. She was an older lady. She had like a square like bob looking hair, you know how like the old ladies like to like fluff up their hair, and she was picking something and she turns around and she looks at him like, what the fuck? Like weird, right? And he just looks at her and he's like, acts like, oh, you know, oh, it's just a question, or I don't know what the hell he was thinking. He was just like, I was like, I couldn't even like lie. I couldn't even be like, yeah. I don't know why. It was just, I was caught off guard. Like, it was just one of those things where it's like, can we, sir? It was weird. And so he kind of like smiles more and he's like, nods his head like, so I'm like, okay. And so I just changed the subject. And so I'm like, how was the trip with you and Mrs. Peach? And he was like, oh, it was, you know, it was great. But you, again, you know Mrs. Peach. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really know her like that. I'm like, I only get like a little glimpse of her. He replies, oh, it's nothing special. I was like, oh, nothing like Mrs. Baltimore. He looks at me kind of like he wanted to get upset with me. You could tell when someone like is like, you got me messed up, like, oh, boundary, or oop, you shouldn't have said that, or oop, you know. He looks at me and he goes, she's that one's different, you know, that one's different. And he kind of just like backed off from asking like the weird questions. I continued to message the ex because I'm like, this feels weird. I feel like I'm doing something I'm not supposed to. Like, I feel guilty of something even though I'm not even doing anything. My friends found him attractive. I did not find him attractive. I didn't find older men at that age attractive because I was a child. I wasn't like, ooh, that's sexy. No, it was like, that's gross. And seeing how that man was with Mrs. Peach and Mr. Baltimore, it wasn't nothing hot. It wasn't nothing attractive. That's not cute. That's not sexy. That's not hot. That's disgusting. So we continued to talk and he kind of tries to ask me a little bit about like, oh, so what do you and your boyfriend like to do for fun? Like, he keeps asking and I'm like, oh, you know, I don't really like talking about him. He's like, why not? You're texting him. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really like talking about him. And I don't know if I gave him the impression of like, I don't know. I'm over here trying to give excuses for this man. I don't freaking know. I don't know. But I was like, I don't want to talk about him. And I'm like, let's talk about how, you know, you were gone, the vacation, how was it? And he's like, I don't really want to talk about that. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we got nothing to talk about, because it was so freaking awkward. So I text my mom and I'm like, call me. My mom calls me. She doesn't even ask me why. She just calls me and she asks me, is like everything okay? Me and my mom had a code. Every time I would say this code, my mom would be like, oh, okay, like she knew like something's on, something's hot. So I used the code. My mom ends up telling me like, I need you right now, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. And I had the volume up high so he can kind of hear her. And so I get off the phone, he asks me like, oh, what was that? I was like, oh, it's my mom. She needs me to hurry up and help her, so I can't really stay late. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So we finish getting everything. We're at the checkout and he asks me like, oh, do you want this? It was like a Snickers or something like that. I was like, oh yeah, sure, you know, whatever. And then I started thinking in my head like, you see, like he's not a weirdo, so like don't read too much into it, Alexis. Talking to myself, because that's my only friend that I have, is to talk to myself. We start putting everything in the car, and so I tell him like, okay, because like we really didn't talk about the DVDs much, and we never got down to like everything. I feel like everything was just like small talk and just kind of getting swept under the rug, right? And so we get to driving, and it's only like 5-8 minutes from the house. He starts talking to me and telling me like, oh, do you have anywhere to go tonight? And I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, you have anywhere to sleep tonight? And I didn't know if me and the ex were, you know, gonna be able to like play house or whatever, you know? So I was like, oh, you know, yeah, I think so. And he tells me like, oh, well, if you don't, you're more than welcome, Alexis, to stay and, you know, take one of the rooms. I was like, oh, thanks. And he was like, yeah, just let me know if you need like a day or two or whatever. And I look at him, I'm like, thanks. Like, I really appreciate that. I forgot to cross my legs. My man puts his hand on my thigh again. He's like, yeah. And I was like, and I grabbed his hand. I was like, and I just moved it. And he's like, sorry, like this. Sorry, it's just habit. And squeezes one more time and moves his hand. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not staying in that house. I don't know, you guys. I don't know if it was me just like overthinking it at the moment or what. But when I talked to some of my friends, some were like, oh, Alexis, my dad would like do that all the time. My dad, you know, maybe he just seen you as that, or maybe he just seen you as like a kid, or I don't know. Maybe I'm just at times I feel like maybe I'm just so broken that any sort of like male interaction, I'm like, this is not okay. Because he was a really nice person at times, like, you know, but it was just, I don't know, like you just never, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to, I don't know. Am I thinking too much into it? Was it, I don't know. And then the lip licking, maybe he just got some dry ass lips and it's just a habit. I look at so many people now and they do certain things and I'm like, okay, like it could be this, it could be that. It's nothing that deep. Growing up with so much trauma in your life, you tend to overanalyze every single effing thing, where it's so uncomfortable for you because you just feel like, oh my God. Not that, oh my God, everyone wants you. It's, oh my God, everyone wants to hurt me. That's how you sometimes feel. You feel like you can't ever let the guard down because every time you do, something happens. All right, so sometimes when I do videos and I'm talking about certain situations, sometimes even though I'm talking, I'm not really hearing myself. So it's another thing when I get to edit and record and see myself say certain things, and as I'm editing this, I'm like, this is not okay. Like if I would hear anybody else say about the thigh gripping or the uncomfortableness or the lip biting, I would be like, yeah, that's not okay. And I think where my friends, us being so young, where they were dating older men and they did see this man attractive, they thought it was okay. It was not okay. This man was older than me. That was not okay. Never is okay to touch someone in that area. It is not okay. So I wanted to make sure that I put this in there because it making me feel uncomfortable, that right there, not okay. I wanted to make sure to share all of that because this is therapy for me talking to you guys about my feelings and you guys seeing all the emotions, everything. And if I were to go back and just like cut all of it, it just wouldn't be genuine. So I wanted to leave all that in there because I keep asking you guys, like, what do you guys think? Like, I don't know. Well, now I know. It's not okay. It's not okay to ever touch anybody, anywhere. No. Like, this is your space. Todo. Even if it's your finger, anything, hair, don't touch someone, period, at all. So I just wanted to make sure that I put this in there. So we get out of the car and before we do, I'm like, the DVD, like we didn't talk about it. And he's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And so I asked him, like, are you sure? Because I didn't break it. I don't know what happened to it. I left it like that. So he says not to worry about it. It's taken care of. He's like, don't worry about it. It's taken care of. Like nonchalant, like wasn't a big deal. Like if his wife wasn't just like messaging me, making me feel like I did something wrong. So I'm like, okay. So I'll help him with the items to get off of the, oh my gosh. I hate when you use setting spray and then it gets dirty. So I help him get the stuff off and then I go inside the house. I get inside and I see Mrs. Peach and her eyes are kind of like, you know, like what the heck? Which, yeah, I don't blame her for being like, what the? So we get in and he has the groceries like this. I have some and he's like, oh, I seen her and I just asked her if she wanted to come. She looks at me and she's like, tells me like, okay, so we still need to talk. He's like, babe, I already got it all figured out. I already resolved it. And that guy was just like, what did you resolve? I didn't say I did it. I didn't say anything, you know? And so she's like, oh, okay, good. So who did it? And he's like, I'll talk to you later about it. She doesn't want to let it go. She's like, no, I want to talk about it right now. And he gives her that kind of like look of like, shut up. She still don't shut up. She's like, no. So who did it? And he goes, Sam did it. Sam is sitting on the couch and she's like, no, I didn't. And he's like, yeah, you did. And she's like, Alexis, you said I did it. And I was like, nope, I didn't. And then Mrs. Peach is like, okay, so what did you say? And I was like, I said, I didn't know who did it. I left it not broken. Is that even how you say it? I left it not broken? I don't know. That's what I said. I left it not broken. And she goes, Mrs. Peach, okay, so who did it? If it wasn't you, if it wasn't Sam, who did it? And she's upset about it. And he goes, honey, Sam did it. Sam again is like, no, I didn't. And he looks at her and he has like the bag in his hand because he's putting stuff away. Sam, stop, okay? Just stop. And she's like, is that what Alexis said? And he's like, no, she didn't have to. She didn't have to. She said she didn't do it, and that's it. And so she goes, oh, so we're just gonna believe her just because she said that. So we're just gonna believe someone who doesn't have a home or any parents, who's just doing whatever they want. We're just gonna believe someone like that, which was just weird. Like, what kind of diss is that, you raggedy freaking bitch? Okay, we're just not gonna believe it. We're not gonna believe the homeless person. Weird flex, but okay. And he looks at her and he's like, hey, no, don't be like that. So they kind of start like the little like bickering back and forth, and I'm just sitting there like, it's weird. This is uncomfortable and unnecessary. He calls out to me and he's like, Alexis, do you think that you can go and get the kids ready for a bath? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So I'm starting to walk away. Mrs. Peach reaches out for me to grab my hand. She grabs it really nicely. She doesn't grab it like, look, you going, bitch, you know. So she grabs it nicely and she's like, wait, we're not done talking. She's like, so what happened to it? And I tell her, I'm like, Mrs. Peach, honestly, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to it. I was sleeping in the garage and Sam wanted to be nice and she brought it out. I didn't do it. I'm sorry that it's broken. So we're kind of just like going back and forth, and I'm just like, I didn't do it. Mr. Peach is not on my side and he's like, honey, she said she didn't do it, like leave her alone. And then he like tells Sam in the same breath, hey, where are the extra sheets? Alexis is gonna be staying with us for a couple of days. Mrs. Peach is like, wait, what? I'm like, you know what? No, it's fine. Like I already talked to my mom, like we got things situated. He's like, are you sure? As he's putting things away, being so sweet, so nice, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And I just feel so weird because when you're not wanted somewhere, you feel that like, the fuck you doing here, bitch? Like you feel that like you're not wanted, you know? And I was already catching the drift, especially when he was like, go get the sheets, and Mrs. Peach like almost broke her neck of like, what? Weird feeling that I was getting. So we're still going back and forth, blah, 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 blah. Mrs. Peach just decides just to like leave, walk off. I go upstairs and I run the bath for the kids, and I'm like, okay, whatever, cool, you know, playing with kids and, you know, getting them like all done and everything. Sam comes upstairs and she like sits next to me. She's like, hey, like I just want to apologize. Like I don't know why I do what I do, and I didn't mean that. You're not homeless. Like, dude, like I'm sorry. And I'm like just don't talk to me. I was like, for real, like don't talk to me. Like that was so weird. And like, who says that? Like that's not even like a good diss. Like I don't even know like what to say to you right now. Like that's just on some weird, like you don't even know how to hit me to like hurt me. You just want to say some like weird stuff. So I'm finishing them up. As I'm walking back down, because like the kids are already done, walking back down, Mr. Peach meets me in the hallway halfway, and he like grabs my hand. He's like, hey hon, like you can stay here. And I was like, no, like it's fine. He's like, I promise you can stay here. He's like, we got it all situated. It was all situated. Don't even worry about it. Go talk to Mrs. Peach. And I was like, okay, like I'm still not gonna stay, but I'm like, okay. So I go downstairs and Mrs. Peach is sitting on the in the dining room, and she's just like this. She has a glass of wine and she just looks really pretty. Hair looks, she's beautiful. And so I go down there and I'm like, hi Mrs. Peach, Mr. Peach said you wanted to talk to me about something. And she's like, yeah honey, sit down please. And so now we're like all honey now, okay, all of a sudden. And so I'm like, someone confessed. So as I sit down, I notice Baltimore's bitch ass is in the kitchen, and I'm like, haven't seen you, bitch. It's been real dry without you here. I'm just saying. Didn't say that, but I'm thinking that. I'm like, okay, the see you next Tuesday is in the kitchen, so what's up? So I'm sitting down. Mrs. Peach is like, first of all, I just want to apologize, Alexis. There was just a huge misunderstanding. And then I hear Baltimore walking close, shuffling her feet, and she has her own wine, and she's like, yo, like that. It was me. Boom, right away, I already knew what she meant. It was me who broke it. It was me. So I'm like, it was you? She's like, yeah. She's like, I thought it was your stuff and I accidentally dropped it. There was no accident. When they showed me how this was how the DVD player was, right? When me and Sam were watching it, it was snapped in half. That Baltimore freaking hoochie mama freaking went, because she probably thought it was me. She probably like, oh, this little bitch is in the garage. But no, it was your man's. It was your best friend's. It wasn't mine. And she's like, oh, like no, it was my fault. It was an accident. I was grabbing the cobija and I was grabbing, and it fell, man. Can you believe that? It fell. Like, and so Mrs. Peach is like, yeah, so you see, just a misunderstanding. And I was like, no, like just, it doesn't feel like it was a misunderstanding. Like you guys just automatically assume that it was just me. Okay, Alexis, okay, I'm telling you, it was a misunderstanding. You can take it or you don't have to. but if you're gonna be in my house sleeping in, I'm like, I'm not gonna be sleeping in your house. So I really hated talking to another grown-ass woman like this because, well, I wasn't grown at the time, but you know, I hate talking to grown-ass women like that because it's just weird. It's always weird to get checked by a child. It's always weird. Like even when my kids want to put me in my place and I'm like, they ain't wrong. It's freaking weird, you know? So I told her like I'm not gonna be staying there, and so I tell him like, is there anything else for me to do? Like I gotta get going. There's tears in my eyes and I already feel like I'm choking up. And she's like, why aren't you gonna stay here? She's like, because I told you that. I was like, no, it's not because you told me that. It's just because I'm not gonna stay here. I was already telling Mr. Peach earlier. That's why. And she was like, okay, so are you gonna be mad about it? She's like, it was an accident. And I was like, I am a little bit upset. She's like, that makes me so mad when someone's like, you know, like people make you feel like you don't have any right to be upset, but it's like, why not? You're being rude to me. So I end up leaving. As I'm leaving, Mr. Peach is coming down. So nice. I don't know if it's because he was like gripping on the thigh and it was just, it's a weird situation. It makes me feel weird talking about it because maybe I was reading too much into it, but if it made you feel uncomfortable, you're not reading too much into it. So as I'm leaving, I have my little backpack. As I'm leaving, he has like a sweater and he was like, look, we brought one back from you. Makes me so emotional because it just brings so many feelings, and I'll talk about it in another story time. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And I couldn't even like properly thank him correctly. So here's the sweater. I'm like, oh, thanks, I gotta go. And I'm just leaving. He's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm gonna tell him. I couldn't even come up with a lie, and I just closed the door. And then when I close the door, I hear, what the fuck did you say? That's all I hear him tell her. What the fuck did you say? And they just start going. As I'm leaving, I just start texting and I tell my mom like, hey, where are you? She's telling me that they're already winding down and that she can't leave. So I get upset with that because I'm like, oh. So I ended up hitting up the ex and I'm like, hey, can I sneak in? And he's like, yeah, like what happened? So I ended up sleeping at the ex's house, and that's how it ends. I will continue more in another story time, but that is what happened to the DVD player. And I honestly think like Baltimore didn't know what happened, and I think she was trying to set me up and then it wasn't working because Mr. Peach was like, nah, either Sam or I don't know what happened, like Alexis not gonna get in trouble. And I just feel like since she knew like I wasn't gonna get in trouble, she was just like, oh, it was me. So I don't know if it really was her. It sounds like it would be her because like why would Sam break it? Because like Sam was trying to be nice, then it like backfired, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just a weird icky feeling. And I know a lot of you guys are like, please tell me they got their karma. I feel like they all have gotten their own karma in their own ways, and it's pretty messed up how things like happened, or like it doesn't happen right away. Like karma doesn't just work like that overnight. Sometimes it does, sometimes it's like, oh shit, but sometimes it's just like it slowly starts happening. Yeah, so that was the time that they tried to set me up, and I say they because I feel like Baltimore and freaking Sam were on a whole nother level of like something. I don't know what the hell. But I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you guys enjoyed the story time, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help me out. I love you guys so much. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. And I'll see you guys in my next story time. Bye.